Good morning. This is a big day. This engine is ready to be reinstalled into the car. And I wanted to point out a few more key elements of the engine to help you if you're having to go the other way and tear one down. So since the last video was shot, I have installed the intake manifolds, the power steering pump, and the alternator, and the fuel rails for the fuel injector. So let's take a look at how some of that stuff works. The intake manifold has 3 runners for the 3 cylinders on bank 2 and 3 runners for the 3 cylinders on bank 1. And there are 2 elements, round elements that cross over between those 2 manifolds. These are the ones I discussed below in the text article. So if you are going to take off your intake manifold, which is like almost the first thing you have to do, I'm not going to tell you whether you can do it from the car or not. I'm just going to show you where the fasteners are. So basically, on bank 2, it's hard to see. There's a better view. There's a fastener right here. There's a fastener down in here between the runners. Fastener number 2. There's a fastener in between the runners, fastener number 3, and a fastener down at the end, fastener number 4. So you take those 4 fasteners out and do the same thing on the other side, and your intake manifold is ready to remove. But in this case, the fuel rail with the fuel injectors is attached. These come off, this fuel rail comes off with the intake manifold, so you don't have to worry about this yet. This intake manifold is basically going to lift straight up, and it's in 2 parts, but not too bad. At the back end, there's an intake tract, and this is your throttle valve. Now this is an electronic controlled valve. It's controlled by this control unit right here. So when you step on the gas, you're not directly connected to this guy. The ECU is going to tell it how far to open. Here's a plug, and it is the type that has, looks like it has a little clip on both the top and the bottom. Not one of my favorite designs, but that is it. So to take the intake manifold off, you are going to just lift it straight up. I don't believe there's anything significant attached to it except for the actual fuel line that runs over to a connection at the rear of at the front left bottom side of the engine compartment. Beyond that, it should pull right out. If you do want to take just the fuel rails out, it's not too bad. It's pretty easy. There's a fastener and a fastener here. And then 2 of the fasteners that you would take out to remove the inlet manifold also hold in the fuel rails. If you look at the fuel rail, it's pretty obvious where the fasteners are. And then the fuel rail just comes straight back. The fuel injectors pop out with attached to the fuel rail. Plugs for the fuel injectors, I think I've gone over those before. Let me find one. Oh yeah, these are the easy peasy ones with the little wire clip. I have not hooked them up yet. So that is the intake manifold. In between these 2 runners here is a valve that is electrically controlled, and it activates vacuum. As far as I can tell, its main function is to activate the vacuum for the flaps that I've discussed in the text picture up here. There's one on bank 2 and there's one on bank 1. They have 2 vacuum connections, and of course, it's very hard to diagnose that, but if either of those lines get brittle or have breaks or cracks, then you'll have a vacuum leak. This little guy right here on bank 1 is a temperature sensor. It's just basically going to find the temperature of the engine compartment air. I suspect to some degree that is just used to tell the engine compartment fan when to come on and turn off. So I did buy a new fuel rail. I was mainly interested in getting all new pressure lines. Fuel lines make me nervous. They can degrade and possibly break and cause a bad fire. So a couple other things. This is the pump that's going to provide the pressurized hydraulic oil for your power steering. So it has a, quote, hard line that comes around here and hooks up, and then it has a return line that comes in and shoots around to the back. I found this to be a little bit of a problem to get the pump through its bracket. There is one spot, and it'll just have to explore. If you want to remove the pump, you take the pulley off, and then the pump goes to the rear. It was no fun, but I was able to get it done. I think we talked about the alternator on the last video, and it's still sitting up right here. So those are some main things that I've added here. So I'm on bank 2. I'm at the front of the engine. There's a corrugated plastic hose that feeds right here, and it takes a tortuous path around and around, and it hooks in to the side of the air oil separator component. There is the same connection to bank 1 occurs down here where you really can't see it. And then at the bottom of the air oil separator is a short hose that dumps the oil back to the crankcase. And then up here, when the air oil separator separates, that air goes through these hoses, and one hooks up on this side of the inlet manifold and one hooks up on this side of the inlet manifold. This is also a corrugated plastic piece. I would highly recommend that you change all of those out. They broke in my hands when I took the car down. And here is the clutch plate. It's not going to be super obvious, but this car has the dampened flywheel with a rubber insert section. And basically what this means is I can rotate it a few degrees before it tightens up. If I was able to, of course, spin that all the way around, you'd know that the rubber had totally fallen out. So, let me see if there's anything else. This is going to be the line that brings the oil in, so that gets disconnected. This is a line that goes to the bottom of the coolant overflow, not even overflow, a little coolant tank on the firewall. And yeah, that's about it. I'm coming up on my 10-minute mark for max size of a video, so I'm gonna chop it off right here. Have a good day. One quick comment, there are 3 bolts that hold in your air conditioning compressor that you will have to remove. 1, 2, 3.